In everyone's life, there are moments when, despite all efforts, what is desired persistently eludes us like a mirage in the desert. The stronger the desire to control the course of events, the further they drift away, breeding doubts about one's own competence and the correctness of the chosen path. The question arises, is the root of the problem not within oneself? Shouldn't one put in even more effort to achieve the goal? However, there is another point of view, deeper and calmer, in tune with fate itself. Carl Jung, a distinguished researcher of the human soul, asserted that what truly belongs to a person does not require force. There is a natural flow, a synchronicity, connecting the individual with the events, people and paths that make up the authentic life journey. When a person finds harmony within themselves, what is destined inevitably finds them. This idea may seem paradoxical in a world where from an early age we are taught the need to achieve everything through blood and sweat, perseverance and persistence. We are taught that if you don't run, someone else will take your place, and without a fight, defeat is inevitable. However, this logic of incessant struggle disconnects us from something much more subtle, from the natural flow of life, the rhythm of the soul, and the wisdom of the unseen. Carl Jung, a distinguished researcher of the human psyche, asserted that each person's soul possesses its own unique destiny. The soul, like a magnet, attracts into the individual's life precisely those events and circumstances necessary for its development and evolution. At the same time, its inclinations may differ radically from the desires of the ego, which often strives for a superficial ideal, ignoring the deep needs of transformation. That is why, as Jung notes, our most fervent desires do not always find their embodiment in reality. The reasons may vary: internal unreadiness, the prematurity of the moment, or more importantly, the discrepancy between what is desired and the soul's true path. Realizing this fact can radically change our perception of life's failures, periods of silence and rejections. It also transforms our attitude towards time, anxieties, and the desire to control what is happening. When a person begins to trust this natural flow of life, perceiving it not as a manifestation of fatalism, but as an act of spiritual courage, harmony arises in their inner world. The need to constantly prove one's worth, artificially accelerate events and achieve goals at any cost gradually loses its power. It is replaced by a calm confidence that what is destined will inevitably happen in its own time. And until that happens, there is an opportunity to fully live, develop, and become the person one needs to be to meet the future. After all, fate does not make mistakes. It only patiently awaits the most appropriate moment for its triumphant manifestation. The common belief that what is destined will inevitably find its addressee is not a call to inaction. It does not mean that one should simply sit idly by waiting for miracles as if life will present them on a silver platter. The idea proposed by Jung is much deeper and more effective. It is a path to self-discovery. After all, in order for something to truly find us, we need to be in the right place. However, this place is not a physical address, but rather an internal state of the soul. When a person loses connection with their true essence, they begin to pursue distorted notions of love, success, and recognition. Relationships that are alien to them enter their life, and they stubbornly engage in projects that deplete their soul. All this creates a vicious cycle of disappointment, leading one to believe that fate itself is hostile. But in reality, it is only a reflection of one's own internal disunity. What is destined can only find a person when they become themselves. That is why many things begin to improve when an individual stops forcibly squeezing themselves into alien frameworks, stops pursuing those who do not notice them, pleasing those who will never accept them, and following paths laid by others' expectations. From the moment a person begins to respect their true essence, even without a clear idea of where it will lead them, life begins to reciprocate. Carl Jung, an outstanding thinker, spoke of the process of individuation, seeing in it a deep immersion into the personal truth of each person. This is a turning point when the individual begins to heed the voice of their inner world, rather than the noisy chorus of external evaluations and expectations. This inner movement, however imperceptible it may seem, has a tremendous impact on life decisions, interpersonal relationships, and a person's sense of self in the world. The individual ceases to be lost and striving for conformity, gaining wholeness and authenticity, which attract favorable circumstances to them. During this period of life, synchronicities become more frequent, as if the universe begins to speak to a person in the language of signs and coincidences. The right people start appearing in life, unexpected opportunities arise, and doors that previously seemed locked open with surprising ease. This isn't magic, but the result of inner harmony and alignment. The universe seems to be signaling, now you're ready, you can receive what is meant for you. The most amazing thing about this state of inner connection is the disappearance of the former hustle and desperate haste. A person realizes that everything has its time, that waiting is an integral part of the journey, and that one shouldn't artificially speed up the course of events. It is then that what is destined finds the person themselves, not through effort and coercion, but because the individual has become someone who already lives in harmony with what has not yet manifested in reality, and this inner peace and confidence serve as a sure sign of an imminent meeting with what is desired. The question of what is truly destined for a person holds a much deeper meaning than it might seem at first glance. After all, not every desire, even the strongest, is a true reflection of their authentic essence. Often, aspirations are dictated by the ego, the need to assert oneself, fill an inner void or heal old wounds. It is in such moments that a substitution of concepts occurs when the desired is mistaken for the necessary. The renowned psychoanalyst Carl Jung argued that the soul possesses a wisdom inaccessible to the ego. This is why many of the most cherished desires remain unrealized. The reason lies not in a lack of abilities, but in insufficient inner maturity, necessary to bring a dream to life without losing oneself in the process. In this sense, life doesn't deny anything, but merely postpones fulfillment until a person is ready. This readiness has nothing to do with perfection, but consists in gaining inner maturity, the courage to say no to everything that causes pain, even if it seems tempting, and the honesty to admit that some dreams were just an illusion, behind which emptiness was hidden. It is in the process of freeing oneself from imposed desires that the true discovery of oneself begins. By letting go of what doesn't rightfully belong, a person opens up space for what truly is theirs. This could be a new love, a promising job, a move to another city, or even a rethinking of what already exists but wasn't valued properly. As a rule, what comes to replace false aspirations doesn't possess the dazzling brilliance characteristic of the ego's desires, but bestows a sense of peace, harmony, and inner silence. It's like a person, tired of fighting the current, finally surrendering to the power of the right flow, carrying them in the right direction. This isn't about a lack of activity, but about being present in the moment, about deep awareness, about understanding when to stop excessive pressure, when to let go of the situation, and trust the natural course of events. It is this approach that fundamentally changes the perception of life. When a person stubbornly tries to open doors that remain closed, they inadvertently express distrust in the universal order, in the timeliness of what is happening, in the possibility of finding something more valuable. They seem to prefer clinging to the insignificant, to what causes suffering. However, when a person lets go of the situation with faith and confidence, they declare their readiness for more. This simple act of liberation changes their energetic frequency, the aura they radiate, and, as a result, the answers that life offers them. Thus, what is destined begins to approach gradually, without unnecessary noise and anxiety. The true enters a person's life quietly because it recognizes its home in them. This home is found only when a person stops conforming to the roles imposed by society and begins to manifest their true essence. There comes a moment when a person realizes that there is no longer a need for an endless race. And this realization comes not from pride or disappointment, but from wisdom. They understand that everything that eludes them never belonged to them in the first place, and everything that remains, despite the chaos, doubts, and silence, deserves attention and care. Jung viewed a person as a symbolic field, where nothing is accidental and everything carries a certain meaning. When a person persistently strives for something that clearly eludes them, they not only waste their energy, but also lose connection with their true nature. After all, what truly belongs to them doesn't require chasing, but needs presence, understanding, and inner harmony. This fundamentally changes the perception of failures, losses, endings, and silence. There is no longer a need to see rejection in them, because in reality, it is only redirection. It is in these changes that the answers that a person seeks so eagerly are hidden. What once seemed like the meaning of existence turns out to be just a deviation, a brief lesson to learn how to refuse, to know oneself, to recognize boundaries and true aspirations. In moments of pain, it is difficult to realize this, but time and reflection help to see the truth. What did not happen did not disappoint, but protected. When a person comes into harmony with themselves, everything alien to their essence begins to disappear. This is not punishment, but refinement, gaining clarity, the beginning of a new chapter where there is no need to beg for love, attention, presence. True purpose is already on the way and will not pass by, recognizing a kindred spirit. But for this, it is necessary to stop hiding behind masks created for universal approval. Real love, life, and destiny do not recognize falsehood. They approach only when a person decides to live without filters and armor, not being afraid to be vulnerable. It is in vulnerability that authenticity is revealed, and it is through it that the universe finds its way to a person. According to the prominent Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung, the human soul has an amazing ability to attract to itself exactly those experiences and circumstances that are necessary for its further growth and evolution. At the same time, often the needs of the soul can radically diverge from the aspirations of the ego, striving for comfort and satisfaction of momentary desires. Therefore, when faced with losses, whether it be the loss of things, the breakdown of relationships, or missed opportunities, one should not perceive this as a punishment from above. Rather, it should be seen as a process of liberation, clearing space for something new, more meaningful, and corresponding to the true needs of the individual. The point is that true purpose, what is really yours, will definitely find its way to you, but only after you find your true self. Jung viewed fate not as something predetermined and external, but as a deep inner process of self-knowledge and revelation. Fate, in his understanding, is what manifests itself when a person stops running away from themselves, from their true feelings and desires. In other words, what is intended specifically for you cannot enter your life as long as you continue to live in accordance with other people's expectations, repeat imposed patterns of behavior, strive to please others, and fit into frameworks alien to you. Truth will not be able to reach your formed version to a personality bound by social masks and prejudices. It will manifest only when you allow yourself emotional exposure, when you begin to respect your inner contradictions, listen to your uncomfortable sensations, and accept all your feelings, even those that seem unacceptable. It is at this moment that the universe begins to reciprocate, but not because it has changed, but because you have changed your attitude towards it, your way of existing in it. And then what previously seemed complex, unattainable, and incredible begins to enter your life easily and naturally, as if it has always been there, just waiting for your permission. The rejection of the obsessive desire for attention and recognition becomes the starting point for radical changes in a person's life. As soon as an individual stops begging for favor, imposing themselves where there is no reciprocal interest, and belittling their own dignity for the sake of fleeting approval, a unique energy field is formed around them. Only those people and events that resonate with their true values and beliefs are allowed into this space, which gives them an almost mystical power. A person begins to realize that they no longer need to chase approval, convince others of their rightness, or prove their own significance. Genuine connections arise on their own, without any effort. Favorable opportunities open up to them without persistent searches. Paths to success are laid not through pleas and persuasion, but thanks to harmony with oneself and the surrounding world. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, implying by this events that are inexplicable from the point of view of logic, but which nevertheless have a deep meaning and significance for a person. When a person's life is built on the basis of their true essence, the world sends them signs that, like quiet compasses, point the right direction. Do not despair if a cherished desire has not come true, or regret the time spent on those who did not appreciate the efforts. All these events are an integral part of the life path, shaping the personality. Each experienced absence teaches to appreciate presence, each refusal to realize one's own value, and each silence to listen to one's inner voice. It is this experience that prepares the ground for future achievements. When a person stops knocking on locked doors, others open before them, which lead to new opportunities. These doors should be entered not with fear and doubt, but with confidence and courage. What is destined by fate does not require desperate efforts, but only sincerity and truth. And when a person chooses their true path, everything that rightfully belongs to them begins to recognize them. However, a serious challenge arises in maintaining faith in a favorable outcome when everything around seems to be at a standstill. In moments when we are surrounded only by silence, waiting, and a feeling of no progress, it can be difficult to believe that something bigger and more meaningful awaits us, but we must remember that silence is also an integral part of the transformation process. It is in silence that we gain the ability to listen to our inner voice, restore connection with our true desires, and realize what we want to get rid of. The universe does not obey our subjective perceptions of time, it follows the rhythm of the soul's maturation. And often this process requires us to withdraw from everything that distracts, cleanse ourselves of superficial connections, and find meaning in the interval between the completion of one stage and the beginning of another. As Jung noted, any transformation begins with a descent into the depths of the unconscious, where we face our own shadows, heal old wounds, and bring forgotten parts of ourselves back to life. This period may be accompanied by a feeling of loneliness, but in reality, it is an important stage of preparation. During this quiet preparation, life often puts us to the test. People whose energy no longer matches our new vibrations may reappear in our lives. Old situations will try to bring us back to the past. The mind, resorting to familiar defense mechanisms, will convince us that we are making a mistake by changing. And it is at this moment that a turning point arrives. It is necessary to defend your truth, even if it has not yet brought visible results. You should remain true to yourself, even when the temptation to return to the familiar and comfortable seems insurmountable. This is about showing trust, but not within the framework of religious dogma, but in a deeper spiritual sense, trust in the chosen path of life. This is the conviction that the future holds more opportunities and prospects than the past. By maintaining this inner harmony and integrity, a person notices how the surrounding world changes. New people appear in their life, interesting and promising opportunities arise. Even without clear evidence, they feel that they are getting closer to the goal they have always sought. And perhaps the most amazing thing in this process is the realization that deep down, what is destined by fate comes not just to fill the void, but to unlock the potential of the individual. It's not about finding the missing piece of yourself, but about sharing your integrity with others. True transformative connections are not those that save you from loneliness or problems, but those that reflect a person's inner world. They show how much they have grown, how they have healed from past wounds, and how ready they are to live a full, rich life. Love that comes at this stage is no longer about expectations and demands, but about presence and conscious choice. It becomes not a necessity, but rather an opportunity to share the joy of being with another person. And all this becomes possible thanks to the experience gained in the past and the path of self-discovery. It is said that what is destined will certainly find its addressee, but this will not happen as a result of desperate pursuits, but thanks to unwavering loyalty to one's inner principles. In this context, fate appears not as an external scenario, but as a natural outcome of personal development. and when the long-awaited one's own finally appears on the horizon, doubts and uncertainties dissipate. The need for evidence and pleas disappears. Inner silence reigns, a calmness that persists even in the raging ocean of external circumstances. Carl Jung, an outstanding psychologist, believed that our unconscious leads us to fateful encounters that contribute to the discovery of our true essence. And when such a moment arrives, something more happens than just meeting another person. A meeting with oneself occurs. This does not guarantee a cloudless path, but it ensures harmony between inner feelings and external experience. Like fragments of a mosaic, scattered for a long time, finally find their place. In this harmony, the need for masks and pretense disappears. A person can be themselves without defense mechanisms, without strategies and constant fear of being rejected. A true meeting takes place at the level of souls that have already been acquainted, even if not consciously. Such experiences transform our understanding of love, success, purpose, and self-realization. We begin to realize that the point is not in achieving what we want, but in attracting what resonates with our renewed state of consciousness. In this understanding, existence ceases to be a feverish pursuit of the mysteries of the universe, turning into an elegant dance with unpredictability. A person begins to trust the natural course of events more, weakening the desire for total control. They learn to find aesthetics in the process itself, not just in the achieved result. There is a realization that everything that previously seemed an obstacle was actually waiting for the right moment, when the individual would be ready to accept the gifts of fate. This applies to meetings with people, as well as emerging opportunities, life changes, inner healing, and even those achievements that once seemed unattainable. Everything begins to align harmoniously when aimless bustle ceases and conscious movement towards the goal appears. This is the true power of realizing that what is meant to be will surely find its addressee. This is not about passively waiting for a miracle, but about moving forward with a clear understanding, conscious choice, and the desire to become someone who lives in harmony with their deepest desires. As Jung asserted, the meaning of life is not in its search, but in the living itself. To live meaningfully means to align one's actions with one's true essence. When this happens, the surrounding world begins to respond more coherently. What previously seemed incredible becomes inevitable, and past anxieties are replaced by serenity. There is an understanding that what is meant to be is not lost, not far away, and not late. It is simply waiting for the moment when a person becomes whole enough to experience it with depth, awareness, and maturity. The deepest truth accompanying the life path is that what is destined from above often finds a person not in a moment of active searching, but in a state of self-sufficiency. As soon as an individual ceases futile attempts to prove their worth to the world, frees themselves from obsessive control, and begins to live life in accordance with their true values, circumstances begin to unfold almost miraculously. The reason lies not in a sudden transformation of the external world, but in the transformation of the person themselves, and this inner change is reflected in all areas of life. People who previously did not notice presence begin to pay attention, doors that were previously locked open. Previously unattainable goals become closer because the universe responds not to declared desires, but to the essence of the person. That is why attempts to forcibly accelerate events, the pursuit of elusive goals, and the persistent desire to open closed doors lead to exhaustion. Deep down, everyone realizes that what truly belongs does not require struggle, but needs presence, integrity, and a willingness of the heart to accept the gifts of fate. The influential thinker Carl Jung asserted that fate is not just a series of events occurring in a person's life, but rather the result of active creation arising from harmony with the depths of one's own unconscious. Respect for personal boundaries, healing of emotional wounds, and attentive attention to internal signals become the foundation on which a unique life path is built, where fate has the opportunity to find a person. Each deliberate decision, a decisive no spoken at the right moment, and a sincere yes coming from the heart are like bricks from which a bridge is built between the individual and what is already predetermined by fate. This process may seem slow and sometimes even painful, as it requires abandoning previous ideas about oneself in order to find one's true essence. However, it is in this transitional state, in the space between the past and the future, that a real miracle is born. The opportunity to allow fate to find what resonates with the deepest essence of a person. When this happens, there is a feeling not of conquest, but of a long-awaited reunion, as if everything had already been destined in the depths of the soul, waiting only for the moment when the person remembers it. Therefore, if at some point there is a feeling of being lost, impatience, a feeling that life has slowed down or dreams have faded, it is important to stop, take a breath, and trust the inner voice. It is necessary to readjust the internal compass, believing that what is destined by fate will not disappear, will not run out, and will not be forgotten. It is simply waiting for the person to be ready for this meeting. He expresses hope that his interlocutor is safe and ready to communicate, not only formally, but also sincerely from the heart. It is emphasized that when the right moment for such a conversation arrives, all obstacles disappear. Tension, anxiety, bustle. Deep calm reigns, serving as a kind of confirmation of readiness for dialogue. He is sure that it is impossible not to feel the arrival of this moment. The inner voice unmistakably tells you that the time has come. This agreement is born not in the mind, under the influence of fear or necessity, but in the depths of the soul, which, in his opinion, never lies. A heartfelt impulse is the most reliable guide in determining the appropriate moment for a frank conversation.